It's not important to me whether Chilli is a Trumper. It's not important to me who she gave money to. What's important to me is this started because she forwarded a post that said that Michelle Obama was trans. You had to either be looking for things like that or people in your sphere had to be looking for things like that. And who's even worse to me is Nick Cannon. Because to me, Nick Cannon's logic is as weak as his game.
Oh, wow.
And I can't understand how a dude with 13 kids is so enamored with a You trust it for a president, would you trust it for a babysitter?
Comedian D.L. Hughley spent part of his latest episode of the Uncertain podcast going in on two celebrities who have been catching heat online lately, Rosonda Chilli and Nick Cannon. And Hughley didn't sound amused about it. He sounded irritated, almost disappointed. The way he talked about both situations made it clear he believes this is part of a bigger pattern where famous people wander into political conversations they don't fully understand and end up pushing ideas that damage the same communities that supported them. The Chilli situation is what clearly bothered him the most.
We have people saying that they made the wrong decision. You have Chilli and Nick Cannon jumping into the fray.
Oh, my goodness.
And I don't even, I'm not one of them people, I can't tell you who to vote for or who to give donations to, but I can say this. The one thing that I resent about the Stephen A. Smith of the world and now the Chillis and the Nick Cannons and the Nicki Minaj's and the Kanyes, they all say the worst things about black people. It's not important to me whether Chilli is a Trumper. It's not important to me who she gave money to. What's important to me is this started because she forwarded a post that said that Michelle Obama was trans, right? That's why it started. And what day did she do that on?
She did that like around the middle of March.
So the middle of March. And we didn't hear about it till when?
Maybe a week so later.
How did it take a week later before you understood that the world was on fire? And the only way that you get places, things like that, is in the dark web. Now, whether it's Janet Jackson pointing an article last year that Kamala wasn't really black, the dark web means they talk about dark people in dark ways. The dark web is places that you can't access unless you look for it. So just the fact that she could find somewhere where someone was saying that this woman was transgender lets you know what you, because the algorithm gives you a steady diet of what you look at. If you look at my algorithm, it's naked people in golf. It's naked chicks cooking in golf, and I never like any of them. That's all it's there. And I'm like, I had that jam, and I said, why is this? I said, well, that's what you look at.
Yeah.
So in order to get an article that came up that told you that the former vice president was transgender, you had to either be looking for things like that or people in your sphere had to be looking for things like that.
For him, Chilli isn't just another celebrity saying something questionable online. She comes from TLC, and that group represented something culturally important for a lot of people. TLC was tied to a period where black women in music were talking openly about independence, relationships, and self-respect. Hughley even referenced how Chilli had spoken in the past about the struggles black women face. So seeing her connected to conspiracy rhetoric aimed at a black woman like Michelle Obama hits differently for him. His feeling is basically this: TLC belonged to a cultural moment that meant something to the community. When someone connected to that legacy moves into controversial territory like this, the reaction is stronger.
I don't care who you voted for. I care that they use people like you to say the worst things about us. You know it's untrue, but you say it anyway. If that were true, she wouldn't be the first lady. She'd be in the Guinness Book of Records.
Nick Cannon's situation feels very different to Hughley. Where Chilli's actions come across to him as betrayal, Cannon's comments come across more like bad reasoning. Cannon recently repeated a familiar political talking point about American history, the idea that Republicans freed the slaves.
You know what? I agree with you 100%.
Thank you,
People don't
Nick.
know that the Democrats is the party of the KKK.
Yep.
Republicans are the party that freed the slaves.
Yep.
I mean, both of you and I have some conservative views.
Technically, that's true if you're talking about Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War. But Hugley argues that bringing up something from more than 160 years ago doesn't explain modern politics.
Who's even worse to me is Nick Cannon. Because to me, Nick Cannon's logic is as weak as his game.
Oh, wow.
Well, you guys didn't even know that, maybe most people didn't know. Everybody fucking knew that Republicans freed the slaves. Everybody knew it. You riding around with this bimbo with writing on her forehead, that wasn't we knew that. That was 163 years ago. If your constant refrain is quoting somebody who did something, the last time he did something for black people was 163 years ago, when the dude on the penny is the dude you keep bringing up, you got to update your resume. Have a 5-year gap on your resume and see if it's valid. Right. When Republicans did that 163 years ago, the combustible engine didn't exist. So him and Amber Rose would have to be walking and saying something that's stupid. Hawaii wasn't a state. If you're going to talk about the greatest of a policy that helped black people out, it should at least be sometime after the fucking moon landing. And I can't understand how a dude with 13 kids is so enamored with a You trust it for a president, would you trust it for a babysitter? Nick is blessed. He gets to be on a mainstream show like Masked Singer, while having dubious situations. Like generally, a major network ain't gonna hire a guy that has 13 kids and ain't married. Generally, they won't do it. But you keep tempting the fates. You keep trying to see how stupid. What do you believe that an interview with Amber Rose would net you, except that you wanted to say what you said? You wanted to be that naive and stupid. It is stupid to say the things that you say, but you get to couch them and you trying to be, and everybody always go, oh, I'm not either this or that. Yes, you are. If he says that Trump is a racist, explain to me how a man that isn't racist depicted the former first lady and her husband as apes.
At the same time, Hugley believes Cannon's situation lands differently inside the black community. In his words, the community never embraced Cannon the same way it embraced figures like Chilli or even Snoop Dogg. So when Cannon says something controversial, the reaction feels less personal. It sounds more like people rolling their eyes at a celebrity making questionable decisions.
But I also think a lot of it is by design. I feel like in many ways, the people that they are choosing to say these things or highlight that they say these things. Chilli, for example.
Right.
I remember, when they first heard the group, TLC, when they came out in the 90s, they were all about, pro-black woman, being independent, the fact that they dressed a particular way. Even when she got an award at the Vanity Fair event, she said, I take this award in honor of all black women who have fought, because for black women, it is so hard. So I think for black women, it's like, how could you do that? And now you're saying this, and you're supposed to be one of us. Nick Cannon, okay, we never really claimed him like that. But Chilli.
To your point, you know what? That is a through line that I think most people don't recognize. With Snoop, they weren't angry with Nelly because they don't have a connection to him. Right. Nigga, we don't give a damn about Honey Nut Cheerios. We don't care about that. Snoop was ours. I remember having an argument with Snoop, talking to Snoop. I wasn't angry. I think they used Snoop cachet in order to, like, I remember that day, the day after election, Elon Musk posted something that said, the vibe shift is real. He basically was maligning Snoop. The reason we got mad, we were angry, is because it was a betrayal. You ours. Like Nick is not really ours like that. Chilli was Kanye was ours. People ain't mad at you. Like, all right, you can say whatever you want to say, but if we've invested in you, we believe in you, your music and your thoughts are kind of the soundtrack of our mentality. They give words, like you will say and do things. Like Snoop is one of the most famous people on the face of the earth. And I got to see a dude become, from where I'm from, become this thing. And then to have people use that as a cudgel against us felt like a betrayal. I think Chilli the same way.
But what really makes this story bigger than one podcast rant is the reaction happening online. Black TikTok creators and commentators have been talking about both Chilli and Nick Cannon all week.
At this point, I can't even cancel my tickets because In Vogue is going to be there, even though I should. I should have known. I should have known you was one of them. I could put my finger on it, but it was definitely giving Stacey Dash. And mind you, I already bought the tickets before I found out about this story, so I'm even more infuriated. Now, shout out to the Midas Touch because they just published this story and my mind is completely blown. Not at the fact that she's an actual supporter of his, but the things that she was posting in support of him. Now, in this Midas Touch article, they go on to show that she had been donating to the Trump campaign, small dollar donation amounts, but nonetheless, she's giving money to that man. And then I believe the Midas Touch did a bit of a deeper dive because they're like, who exactly is she following? Look at the Newsmax is crazy.
People are questioning how figures tied to important moments in Black entertainment ended up connected to ideas that clash with the values those moments once represented.
This is what happens when you allow everyone to get in front of a camera and have conversations that they're not actually qualified to have. Now, what is true is that Lincoln was technically a part of the Republican Party. And the Republican Party looked a lot different than what it looks like now, because in the 60s, many of the people who were Republican switched over to Democrats, which became the quote unquote party of the civil rights. And all of it is really nonsense because at the end of the day, it was never about treating Black people as though they were human. But this just goes to show you that people will say anything when a dollar is at the end of that sentence.
And that reaction shows that Hugley isn't the only one thinking this way. For a lot of people, this conversation isn't about celebrity gossip. It's about expectations. When an artist becomes tied to a cultural legacy, audiences expect something from that person. When that expectation gets shaken, the response can be loud. That's why this discussion isn't fading quickly. Because once fans start questioning the people they grew up supporting, the conversation usually keeps going long after the original controversy disappears.